G'day, it's Rob here again. Well, recently I did a review of some small carbide boring bars, and I also showed you how to make the holders for them. And these little boring bars came from Banggood as usual. That's the stuff I review. And these little boring bars were an absolutely beautifully made first class bit of kit. I mean, you could not ask for more. And they were reasonably good value, and yeah, they called them carbide, but it's actually mainly tungsten steel with some carbide in it. But of course that's what they do, you know, whenever you see carbide, solid carbide tooling being advertised, you can take it with a pinch of salt, because more likely than not it's got a hell of a lot less carbide than it's got tungsten steel. Tungsten steel would be the main component, but as you can see, these are beautifully made, and yeah, give a good finish. Top stuff. There's some in their little containers, and it goes down to 2 mil. Anyway, after I'd done that video, I got quite a lot of interest in it, and I thought, what if I got any other small micro boring bars? I mean, this is what we're talking about, micro boring bars. You know, if you're doing model making, hobby work, you want the smallest boring bars you can get, basically, so that you can get a good finish on very small bushes and things like that the shaft would run in. And yeah, you have to go super small. And there's not a lot of this stuff around for reasonable money anyway. And anyway, I was pretty pleased with these. So I thought, I wonder what else they've got on that website. You know, I wonder if Banggood sell anything else other than this half a dozen various sizes you can buy. I had a look at the Banggood site, and they had these other 2 boring bars, and they were TIN coded. And I thought, oh, well, that's pretty good. And they're a bit dearer than these because you're getting more tungsten metal. So I think you seem to be paying by the volume, the mass of metal. You know, the smaller boring bars, which I think would be the dearer ones, are actually the cheapest, and it seems to go up in relation to how much metal is actually in them, not how tricky it is to make them. You know, like that is a really super fine job, you know, to make something like that. So anyway, I said to Banggood, can you send me those 2 boring bars, the other 2 micro boring bars, and I'll check them out, which they did. So I'll show you some screen grabs on what we're talking about. So here they are, PTHK Germany, Germany's super hard alloy. And I thought, oh, PTHK, I hadn't heard of that brand, and I thought, funny, how come, you know, there's German tooling coming out of China? I did a bit of research on it, and it's actually misleading, well, sort of misleading. Germany super hard alloy. So what it's saying is PTHK is the company that supplied the super hard alloy that these little boring bars are made out of. They didn't make the boring bar. The boring bar was actually made by the Dogon Weeding NC Tool Company, otherwise known as WD Tools. So I had a bit of a poke around on this, you know, to see what's going on. I couldn't actually find PTHK in Germany anyway. So I don't know how that works, but the German connection is only going to be the metal. The machining and the forming of the tooling is straight out of China. So how do these compare size-wise to the others? I'll compare them. So here's the previous ones. You can see there's really no difference. I thought they would be longer, but looking at that, no, that's not really happening, is it? They're the same basic dimensions, but as I said, they are TIN coded. So okay, it looks interesting, so I dug a bit deeper. Now these boring bars are supposed to be a 4mm and a 6mm working diameter, and what I got was a 4mm and a 5mm working diameter, no 6mm. So things screwed up there for a start. So either they're sending out the wrong one, the 5 instead of a 6, all the advertising literature on the website is wrong, which is highly likely. How many times have we seen Banggood write-ups get it wrong? Yeah, pretty often. All right, so if we can overlook that factor, in effect, I suppose, well, you're getting a 5 instead of a 6, which to my mind is probably a bit more useful anyway, because you can go into a smaller hole with it. But then it gets a bit weird again. I did some measuring of all the dimensions to see how it came in, because I looked at these and I thought, gee, there doesn't look to be much difference between the 5 and the 4 as far as the width of the the end. And I thought, well, that's strange. Now the 4mm, this one, is supposed to have a working diameter of 4mm, and I measured that up, and the actual end of the tooling is 3.59 millimetre, which is half a mil under, or virtually. And I thought, oh, okay, that's more, that's smaller than I expected. I thought it would have been up around the 3.7, 3.8. And then when I measured the 5mm, which I expected would be 4.7 or 8, that was 3.98. So the 5mm's got the dimension of a 4mm, what you would expect for a 4mm, but the 4mm's got, well, a dimension way under what you would expect for a 4mm, but it would still be, I suppose, technically a 4mm. So yeah, it's weird that there's such a discrepancy in the clearance that's available with these. I would have expected the 5 to be bigger than 4mm on the end. That's a very odd situation. The actual finish on these looks first class. It looks equally as good as the finish on the ones that I reviewed earlier. Look at that. I mean, they just sparkle, don't they? They're just beautifully made. And yeah, as far as the way the machine, well, they look first class. It's just that there's some weirdness going on with the actual dimensions, the dimensions advertised and the dimensions in the actual container. Very strange. So the stem is 3.978, so that's good. It's written up as being 4mm, but that's perfect. So we'll mount one up and we'll try it out. Well, I've got it mounted up, ready to go in a mounting block. Tiny bit of positive rake, just showing you how it compares to a conventional sized boring bar that most people are familiar with. They don't think about these tiny little baby ones that can do so much more. Just look at the difference in the working diameter. This is useless for a lot of model making stuff, just too big, but this can get into the smallest of holes that you're going to run shafts in generally, and you can go smaller. The way to go.
So let's give the 4mm one a go. 460 RPM, fine feed. Magnifying glass. Alright, here we go. No problem. Do some more. So that was on fine feed, the finest feed on this lathe, and it's come up pretty damn well. Alright, let's try it on some mild steel. Quite a bit bigger than the boring bar, but I mean, just the whole thing with little boring bars, you can still do big jobs with them, but you just have to go slowly with them. They will do small and they will do big. Once again, these are small boring bars, so you can't overdo it. You've got to treat them with respect, so you only do light cuts. Handled that quite alright, didn't it? I went in now a bit deeper than last time. So yeah, beautiful finish. So no problem with these whatsoever. Handled that easily. And I might finish off with a bit of cast iron and see if I can find some. Always use the depth stop, carriage stop, when you're going into a blind hole. Otherwise, if it gets to the end and bites in, it could snap off your precious little boring bar. How's that look, eh? Pretty good. Nice. I'll go on a bit deeper. Beautiful. Great little boring bar. And as you can see, look at that. It's got a bit of accumulation there, look. This is not blue NACO. Now, blue NACO is definitely good for not galling with aluminium, but this is some other TIN coating, and you can see there's some evidence there of it clinging. So yeah, not as good as the blue NACO, I would say, but with a bit of lube, if it is a problem, just put a bit of kerosene on there and it should be good to go. So overall, performance-wise, you've got to say that worked quite well. They're very, very satisfactory. Okay, let's try it on some cast iron. Beautiful. How good is that, eh? Pretty bloody good. Just shows you how handy these little boring bars are. And as I said, they can do big stuff as well as small stuff. So you're much better off buying some small ones than buying big ones, you know. And yeah, handle that, no problem. So what do I think of them? Well, I think they're really good. They're really nice, beautifully made. They handle those 4 metal samples without any problem whatsoever. And it showed you how a little boring bar can do big work as well as small work. I think this type of boring bar is something that every lathe owner should have, because it fully allows you to utilise the capabilities of the lathe, you know, to do really fine stuff. And yeah, they're not expensive really. The confusion over the sizing, well, that's something that I've passed on to Banggood. We'll have to wait and see what they say about that. But I don't think it's a major issue. It's just, yeah, a bit weird, something that I didn't expect. And you can judge for yourself whether that is any sort of hindrance to considering the set. I personally don't think it is. But like all my videos, if there is any sort of issue, I'll always bring it up, and you can make your own mind up as to whether it's serious or basically not, you know, not an issue at all. Okay, well that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed it. I fully expect these little bars to perform well, and they didn't let me down. You can generally get a feel for this stuff, you know, as soon as you pick it up and look at it, and you can just see how the quality appears to be, and yeah, they look good from the get-go. Okay, that's it for me. See you next time. Cheers.